go. There you go. Failure is an orphan, and success is many parents. There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the chambers of the Board of Legislature of Westchester County. Pleased to announce that the Westchester County Board of Legislators today passed a resolution calling for a stricter review process and full risk assessments in regard to the proposed expansion of the Algonquin natural gas pipeline, which is supposed to run through the counties of through the county, by the Houston, Texas-based Spectra Gas Corporation. The major construction project would replace an existing 26-inch diameter pipeline for pressurized gas with a new 42-inch pipeline. It would go from Rockland County to Massachusetts via northern Westchester and Putnam counties. Including the project would be a tunnel built beneath the Hudson River and new compressor stations situated in Stony Point and southeast, plus metering and regulating stations along the way. The approved resolution today by the board, overwhelming and bipartisan, focused primarily on two specific risks regarding the proposed pipeline. One, its location in highly populated areas in Westchester County where potential accidents and regular emissions could be harmful to the populace. And two, proximity to the Indian Point nuclear power plants, and two, as noted, existing geological faults. This resolution does communicate to the appropriate federal and state agencies that the proposed gas line warrants a full examination of potential problems associated with infrastructure that will be moving an extraordinary amount of volatile material through Westchester on a daily basis. Many residents are worried, and all of us as legislators here, many will speak, if all would like, of course, have heard from constituents both in their district and throughout the county that they are rightfully concerned about safety in regard to this pipeline operating in their communities, and those worries should be and must be allayed before shovels hit the ground. So we have a number of legislators, leadership, and committee chairs here that have worked very hard, also some advocates that have worked very hard, and very pleased to next introduce our majority leader, Catherine Borgia, who will speak on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution actually represents the best of legislative work, where we learned through our committee process the wide variety of information, some of the concerns that both residents and workers have about the safety of this pipeline going forward, and to really think about the health concerns that exist as the project is being constructed, but almost more importantly, the ongoing health concerns that a project like this of this nature could potentially have for residents in our area. There's a lot of things that have been associated with the emissions from compressor stations, including the toxic chemicals that are released into the atmosphere, the health concerns, the long-term environmental concerns. So what this resolution does is really asking all federal and state agencies involved to make the health and safety of residents and workers and all interested parties paramount, their top priority as they go through the permitting and approval processes. I do represent an area that is directly impacted by the construction of this by the potential construction of this pipeline, and I have heard overwhelmingly from my constituents that they are very concerned and really wish to have these safety tests done, completed, and be very thorough in the process. So I'm really happy that we were able to come together under the leadership of Legislator Catherine Parker in the Environment Committee and Legislator Mary Jane Shimsky in the Infrastructure Committee, but also from all of our colleagues who were able to bring insight into the potential hazards of this project and potential mitigations that could happen. So I'm actually going to ask Legislator John Testa, who represents the area most directly involved and is our minority leader, to give some comments at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to work with the people I work with each and every day down here in White Plains. And we came together in a very meaningful way on the Environment Committee, which I sit on. And I want to commend both chairwomen, Parker and Shimsky, for the great work they did. And as I said on the floor today, the openness of all ideas and all input to make this resolution that was passed today a more effective resolution than when we started. And as was mentioned, I do represent a very significant part of the impact that this project will have in my district. I've spent time in people's homes and their living rooms talking to them. There is a genuine fear by many who are looking at this project in close proximity to their homes. And it's very, very important that we, as a board representing the citizens of Westchester, come together and make sure that we require and request the safety measures that need to be made to ensure the safety of our citizens. And if this project goes forward, we have to keep a close eye on it to make sure that it's continued throughout the project. So it's my pleasure to be a part of it and work together to make this happen, and we need to continue doing that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody. You know, this resolution was not about whether we support or oppose the extraction of shale gas. It was not about whether we support or oppose the pipeline, whether we favor this pipeline going through a county park, which it's planned to. It was not about any of those things. It was about this Board of Legislators ensuring that all of the appropriate regulators go the extra mile to protect the health and safety and well-being of the residents of Westchester County. And we may say, why? You know, there's certainly enough oversight here. Every 9 days, somebody in the United States is either hurt or killed in a gas pipeline explosion. We need only go back to March of this year. 8 people were killed in New York City in 2011, 5 people killed in Allentown, Pennsylvania. 2010, 8 people were killed in San Francisco. We've heard about the need for an independent health assessment and for air monitoring that is independent from the company that is building the pipeline. That's a fundamental flaw in the structure when the company that is building the pipeline is essentially charged with taking its own sampling and regulating itself. Why do we need that? Well, first of all, just common sense, the methane that's emitted from the compressor station is more harmful than carbon as far as what we're doing to global warming. But the radon, the benzene, the methane, all carcinogens, all have long-term health impacts. We have studies that show that people who live near the compression stations have these lasting health impacts. The Southeast compressor station is right on the border with North Salem, where I live and is the top of my district. So we take this very, very seriously. And again, it was not about whether we are for or against a pipeline. It's we as a legislature coming together saying that we want all of the appropriate permitting authorities and those authorities that weigh in with opinions to go the extra step and mile on health and safety regarding this pipeline. And I thank all my colleagues. And now with that, we'll turn it over to Legislator Parker, who chaired Committee on Environment and Energy. Thank you.
Thank you. I think what you're hearing today is this is government at its best. It's everybody coming together to recognize that common sense would tell you when you have a natural gas pipeline that's running 1,000 feet from Indian Point nuclear power plant, when you have 2 seismic faults, when there is natural gas being extracted from the Marcellus Shale that has a very high degree of radon, that due diligence is absolutely paramount. And what you've seen today is that both sides of the aisle came together to protect our residents. That is the most important charge of what we as Westchester County legislators do. And so I think this was a perfect example of how government has worked. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Mary Jane Shimsky. I chair the Infrastructure Committee, and Legislator Parker and I work on numerous issues together. And depending on what the issue is, either one of us will take the lead and the other one will help. It was an honor for me to assist Legislator Parker in this particular enterprise. The statesmanlike way in which she was able to pull together all of the substantive concerns of all of our members to craft a document that really should be a blueprint going forward for all of the regulatory agencies involved was truly an excellent, excellent piece of legislative work. And on behalf of all of my constituents who I know care a great deal about this issue, I'd like to thank Legislator Parker for her extraordinary leadership on this. Of course, when we talk about this pipeline, there are two types of risk that need to be assessed here. The first one is the risk that's going to happen if the pipeline functions as designed. Those are the issues of the emissions with the radon gas, the benzene, and the other known carcinogens that Legislator Harcum, who for years has been a chief leader on this board in terms of environmental issues, described before. We need to make sure that those people who are living or playing or working near the compressor stations are not being put at risk. The second issue is what happens if things don't go as designed. And we all know in life that things do go wrong from time to time. And sometimes people try to get out of their minds what could happen if a low-risk catastrophe were to take place. And especially given this pipeline's proximity to a nuclear power plant with many, many tons of radioactive waste on site, the potential for catastrophe here may not be great, but certainly if one were to take place, the consequences would definitely be dire for hundreds of thousands of people at the very least. So again, I would like to thank Legislator Parker for her extraordinary leadership on this. Chairman Kaplowitz was also very helpful. The minority and majority leader, both of whom know firsthand from their constituents what the problems of this pipeline can mean for the people of this county. So again, thank you very much, and hopefully we will be able to have an impact and have our voices heard with the state and federal government. Thank you.
Yeah. We have a couple of advocates that were very helpful through the committee process, and ask that step forward and
Thank you.
give us a few thoughts. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Paula Clare. I'm part of the group SAPE. I wanted to thank the legislature for passing this important legislation. One of the things I want to focus on right now is the emissions that have to be monitored and measured, and the citizens have to be protected against these emissions. In the Stony Point and the Southeast compressor stations, at this time, which are part of the pipeline expansion, the toxins emitted are already over the EPA threshold. Some double and some triple the threshold. These toxins over the threshold include volatile organic compounds, which include benzene, a known carcinogen, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, and carbon dioxide. And this is especially problematic because Westchester County is already in a non-attainment zone for air quality. That means that our air is not meeting national standards now. In addition, the American Lung Association gave Westchester County an F grade for air quality regarding ground level ozone. So we need to do due diligence to monitor any additional materials that go into our air, and I'm grateful that the legislature has taken action to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Susan McDonald. I'm a resident from Cortland, and I am very delighted to be here. I'm representing the group of us that met some years ago over the issue of fracking. And when we found out that fracking gas was going to be part of the gas pipeline, well, we just said, okay, we're not finished with our work yet. And we have educated ourselves and worked very, very hard to present a unified front and to present a reasoned argument to all of the organizations that we've approached. And I think today we did it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other colleagues want to say? Questions at this point for any of our colleagues or advocates? Seeing none, we Please.
What about the existing pipeline? There was some mention of.
Kathy, do you want to?
26 inches. Yeah.
There is an existing pipeline. It was there actually prior to Indian Point. It's 26 inches in diameter. But just to repeat, the purpose of the pipeline, by the way, is not bringing gas into Westchester County. It's really acting as a highway and bringing gas up to New England. So the fact that they're going to be disturbing the land by Indian Point, the fact that they're going through 2 seismic faults, and then again, as Paula had mentioned, the emissions into the compressor stations. These are all, this is really the time to take a look, and a hard look, and make sure that our residents are safe.
But what I mean is the compressor, the emissions of the existing pipeline, aren't those of concern to the legislators or the community as well?
And this will increase that. So we are talking about the plan going forward, and absolutely.
Yeah, if I can just add
Yeah.
to that. As we heard, the 2 compressor stations are already in non-compliance with emission standards for certain toxic chemicals. The plan would be to enlarge these compressor stations because they're going from a 26-inch pipe to a 42-inch pipe. So that will only exacerbate the current situation. So A, regulate the existing issue, come into compliance on the existing compressor stations before we talk about enlarging. And then if you are, who's going to be monitoring the air? Who's the independent source that will take a baseline of the air quality before and after?
All righty. Motion to adjourn. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Great job, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming.